Hi everyone. In this video, we'll take a look at making a very rudimentary login page and welcome page for our web applications. Again, this is not recommended. This is a very insecure way of making a login page for many reasons. It is not very secure. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and make a login page. Again, I've already gone ahead and done that. I've already made a login page for us to use. Again, it's just a form with an action, the name of the servlet that we're going to be using. I'm going to change this action to the login servlet that I've already made. We're going to use the post method. Again, we have a password and username in our form. We do not want to use get. Do not use get, you want to use post. And again, that provides a very minimal amount of encryption. We don't want to see just vanilla passwords and plain text flying across it. That's just leaves us open to hacking. So again, it's got a username field and a password field. And then I have a submit button. So you click that and it will let you log in. Likewise, I've got a welcome.jsp, and we're only going to let users to this welcome page if they successfully log in. And to do that, I've also set this login servlet, this login page to communicate with a login servlet. And so I've created it here. Again, I was practicing how to do this, and I forgot to delete that, so let me delete that and start all over. I also have a welcome servlet that can be used if we want to serve up the welcome.jsp. And again, my welcome.jsp, just a simple H1 that says welcome. Okay, so we're going to use this login servlet and login JSP and a welcome servlet and welcome JSP and to really illustrate the power of sessions. So here we go. I've got a username field called input type called username and password, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab those. So I'm going to create a string called username equal to request.getUsername. Oh, excuse me, request.get parameter, and then the name of that parameter is username. And then likewise, I'll go ahead and quickly grab the password. There we are, and password. Okay, good. Likewise, I'm going to make a string to store the URL that we're going to forward users to. If users don't enter in the password and username correctly, we'll send them back to the welcome page, or the login page, excuse me. If they don't type it in correctly, we'll send them back to the login page. If they do, then we'll send them to the welcome servlet. So we're going to assume by default that users don't type in anything correctly, or that this is the first time they're running our website. So we will send them to webinf / welcome.j. Send them to the welcome page. If they haven't signed in, we need to send them to the login page. So login JSP. Do keep in mind that you want to put your JSPs inside this webinf file. If you do not, it is possible to access these JSPs and circumvent this minimal security that we're putting into our websites. Now, I'm also going to, before I forget, forward users to whatever URL we want, and we'll forward them whatever page that is, the request and response object that we use here. Okay. Now, per usual, we should really check to make sure that users have typed in anything into these fields, the username and password fields. So I'm going to quickly do if username does not equal null and password does not equal null, then we'll do stuff. So we'll enter this if block if users typed in something to the fields. Okay. All right, good. So if they typed in something into their username and password, we'll enter this if block. Likewise, we now need to check if the username and password are good to go. And so this is where our login page is really, really sketchy. So what I'm going to say is another if block. If username dot equals sgago, and if password dot equals good old reliable password. So we will enter this if block if users type in the correct username and password. Now again, I'm storing my username and password in the server code, which you should never do. You should actually store usernames in the database. Likewise, you should store the passwords for the users in the database as well. So you could envision this whole DAO objects for getting username and passwords. So again, this is not secure. This is not secure at all. So if the users type something in, and if the usernames are valid, they're sgago and with a password, we will then change the URL to /welcome servlet. So again, this will pass our request and response over to the welcome servlet. Now, before I get too far, I'm just going to run this code real quick to make sure it's good to go, to make sure it's all the coding up to this point has been good. Let's see here. Login JSP not available. Again, this is why we're running it, because it's not good. Hello, sessions. Seems I've got a little bit of an issue. What's the issue? WebINF, login.jsp. Okay, that all looks good. Huh. 404, huh? Not found. Interesting. Well, time to start debugging. Okay. So we do have a login page here. Do have a login servlet. I've tied the action correctly. Let me just check my web.xml file. Login servlet. Sessions. I'm gonna restart my server real quick. I'll go ahead and click play again. No, not found, huh? What have I typed in incorrectly? I'm sure it's, oh! I see it. I knew it was a simple typo, I see it. I've got the WebINF folder. I do not have a JSP folder, so I need to go ahead and add that. Okay. There we are. Now it should be good to go. This is making me nervous. Okay, I haven't added anything in there. Okay. Now let's run it and make sure it's all good to go. Oh man, see, even I make typos. So I've got just a really simple website login page where you type in the username and password. Okay. So what I'm going to do, let's quickly type in sgago, and then type in password as my password. Okay, fun. So that all seems to be working right now. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to try to do now is to type in the correct username and password and see if I get sent to that welcome servlet. So I'm going to type in esgago and then password. And if I click login, I should be taken to the welcome page, but I'm not, because in the welcome servlet I ran, but I didn't forward users anywhere. Okay, so let's work on our welcome servlet now. Now in the welcome servlet, I need to forward users, get request dispatcher. I need to forward users via the welcome servlet to webinf to this welcome JSP file. So webinf JSP, don't forget the folder, and then welcome.jsp. And then we'll forward that JSP our request and our response objects. Cool. So let's go ahead, let's rerun that now. Okay, type in my username and then my password. By the way, when I try to type my name into this username field, this web browser that Eclipse is using, press the escape key so that it doesn't automatically fix your username and passwords. Okay, so I've typed in my username and password, I click login, and I'm sent to the welcome page. There we go. Now, here's the thing with this. If I type in / welcome servlet, I am taken to the welcome page. So I can indeed type login servlet. But then I can circumvent this by just changing the URL here. So I can type in welcome servlet and I can go right around the security. So again, this security is pretty minimal. To give it a little bit more security, we're going to use the session object to basically say, hey, is there a valid login or not? So over in my login servlet, what I'm going to do is I'm first going to pull out the session object. So the way I'm going to do that, we'll make that session object here, HTTP session for the previous video. We'll call that session object session is equal to request.get session. We'll set the value to true, so make the session if it doesn't exist. Otherwise, we'll use the existing one. And we need to import the session library. I think I have one too many S's. Yeah, there we go. Good. Now, if users log into this page, enter in the username, password, and they do so correctly, we'll go ahead and we will create a session attribute called valid login, and we'll set that value to true. There we are. So, if users log in correctly, we will set a session ID, so we're going to remember that they logged in successfully, and then we will forward them to the welcome servlet. Okay. Now, over on the welcome servlet side of things, I'm going to grab that same session. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to do HTTP session with a session object is equal to request.getSession. Again, we'll set it to true, so we'll make it if it doesn't exist. Otherwise, we'll use the existing one. And we're going to say if session.getAttribute, and so the name of the attribute we set in the login servlet over here is valid login. So if that guy, oops, getting some typos here. So if the attribute named valid login does not equal null, you know what? Now let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. We'll do it without any variables. I might grab this and stick it into a variable. I'll just show you how to do it without variables. So if this get attribute valid login does not equal null, and session.get attribute valid login, darn it, messing up my copy and paste here, and dot equals true, then we know that the users have logged in successfully via our login page. So instead of just automatically forwarding users to this welcome page, per usual, I'm going to set a string called URL, and I'm going to assume that users have not actually logged in successfully. So I'll do webinf JSP login.jsp, like so, and I'm going to change this to URL. So now, if users have logged in successfully, now we'll go ahead and we'll change that to webinf JSP welcome.jsp. So they log in successfully, we'll send them to the welcome page. If they have not logged in yet or done any of that, we're going to send them back to the login page. Okay. Again, all using attributes with the session object. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to launch the login servlet. And we'll type in escargot, press cancel key, and then do password. Press login. There we are. We're taken back to the welcome page. Now if I was to type in welcome servlet, I should be allowed to log in because I've already logged in. We're remembering that. So one last thing we need to do is we need to invalidate or set valid login to false if the user types in the incorrect password. We're not doing that here. So if they typed it in once correctly, we would still let them through. So let's quickly say if they don't type in the correct username and password, we'll set the valid login session attribute to false. And likewise, if they don't type in a username or ID, we'll also set that to false. Okay, now let's try running it. Okay, so if I type in escargot now, press cancel, and then I type in some gibberish password here, and I try to log in, I'm taken back to the login page. If I type escargot and type in the password of password and log in, I'm taken to my welcome page. If I try to jump directly to welcome servlet, I'm let in immediately. I'm going to go back to login servlet. If I type in escargot and put in another garbage password and click login, I'm not let in. The session value is set to false. And if I do welcome servlet, it won't let me in either. It takes me right back to the login page. So that's how you can set a very basic login page using the session object. Remember, if users have typed in their passwords correctly. Now the caveat with this being that you need to include this line, these lines of code in every protected page. So for instance, let's say you had a welcome landing page when you typed it in. If that's a protected page, you need this code. If you wanted to modify, a user had a profile page like on Facebook, again, that's a protected page, so that servlet would need this code. Any servlet you want to have protected needs to include this code. So really, that's how we can make a really simple login page. Again, this is a very simple login page. Ideally, these usernames are being read from a database. The passwords are read from a database. Furthermore, this should be a salted password. We don't store passwords in plain text in the database. You should never, ever be able to read a user's password, ever. So there's many things we need to do before this is really a much more secure login page, certainly. So there's a lot of security we don't have. But anyway, this is pretty minimal security. And that's how we can use sessions. And again, you wouldn't want to store a valid login in a cookie on client side, because I could change that cookie on the client side. Power users would be able to hack through that lickety-split. So really, that's the really great stuff you can do with sessions. In the next video, should be a pretty short one. We're just going to look at the different scopes. So we'll look at application scope, page scope, session scope, and request scope. So again, thanks for watching.